Good evening, everybody. It is once again Ted the Speed Learner, and tonight I'm going to have a humongous discussion about something so tiny: the random access memory of your computer. Boy, you're going to want to hear all this. I got a lot to tell you tonight. But first, I'm probably one of the rare few YouTube personalities on the YouTube platform that will never go, "Oh, please, 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 please like my video, and if you would be ever so kind as to subscribe to my channel, which will cause all my videos to be shared all over the platform." Let me tell you something. That ain't going to work, and I'll tell you why. Because YouTube cannot determine what they need to determine, which is whether my videos are keeping you guys on their platform by the use of the like buttons and the subscribe buttons, okay? Now, why do these people tell you this? Well, number one, it extends the watch time on their videos, which I'll tell you a little later why that would have an effect. But anyway, the other thing is that the like button itself, you could flip through things all day long, just go like. It's not going to tell YouTube anything, okay? Now, as for the subscribe button, that's a little different story. Have you noticed that when you hit the subscribe button now, this little menu pops up and it sets your bell notifications? There you go. That's why they're telling you that. Now, the bell notifications might tell YouTube something about how popular your channel is, and they might want to share your videos because of it. Okay? But what will cause YouTube to share your videos? Well, there are two things you can... Well, first of all, if people like you who are watching these videos right now were to copy the URL of the video and share it on a different social media platform like Facebook, what used to be Twitter, now is X, Gab, you got Truth Social, Instagram, Threads, whatever you want to share it on, that would get your video shared more, okay? Number two, when you increase the watch time of the video, then YouTube gets an indication that people are actually watching the whole thing and not just watching bits and pieces and jump cutting through everything in your video. So that is a good indication. The other thing you could do, okay, is you can leave very nice comments in the comments section below. And what that tells them is you were engaged, you watched, you replied, you really liked the content that you were watching, and that helps your ratings as well. So really what you really want to do, if you want to increase, if you want to motivate YouTube to share your videos more often, watch the videos all the way through. Well, not you, but I mean your audience needs to watch the videos all the way through, increasing the watch time of every single one of your videos, or have them leave the nice comments in the comment section below so that YouTube can see for themselves that, gee, this is a video we want to share all over the platform. And there you go. And another thing I need to mention real quick before we resume our video is that I have published 5 Kindle books. They're $5 a piece. If you want a copy of any of these Kindle books, just leave me a comment in the comment section below, and I'll send you a hyperlink to my latest book, which you now can see on the screen. And then from there you can find my other 4 Kindle books, and there will be more Kindle books coming soon. It's all up to you. Buy them and let me know what you think about them. Alright, on to the video. Okay, let's continue with the topic, shall we? Before the advent of the unipolar transistor, all data was stored on punch cards. If you want a complete history of that, you let me know and I'll make a video about it and you can see for yourself. That's why people who were employed at the time had, you remember the old punch cards they had to stick in that manual machine? It would punch it for you. Okay, you punch at the start of your shift, you punch at the end of your shift. Alright, this actually changed with the invention of the semiconductor. Prior to World War II, punch cards were used to computers to process information. These computers had to be constantly rewired to process various stacks of punch cards. Or they actually had paper tape. It doesn't matter either way. Okay? That's because each task required different kinds of input, and that input had to be processed in different ways. Can you imagine working with the computers that were available in World War II? That would have been fun. 3 years after World War II, there was a guy, and I'm going to go ahead and put his name on here. Ready for this? Yep, we had actually a guy. His name was Sir Freddie What a name, huh? Williams. Sir Freddy Williams. Okay? Now, he and a couple of his associates relocated themselves to a place called Manchester, England. Now, what were the names of his associates? Well, names were Tom Kilburn, there you go, Tom Kilburn, and I may mispronounce this, but we're gonna try. It's Geoff Tootill. There you go, Geoff Tootill. Those were the associates of Sir Freddy Williams. Now, the three of them got together, did some research, and ultimately, this group of scientists developed a special electrical tube called the Williams-Kilburn tube. This tube resembled a cathode ray tube, and these cathode ray tubes at the time, that's what normally would be used for televisions, computers, you name it. But this Williams-Kilburn tube was revolutionary. Now, the Williams-Kilburn tube had a, quote, screen, sort of like a television tube. But this screen had a grid full of dots. That's because this particular screen was coated with a special layer of phosphor. Electrons would collide with the phosphor coating. When the electrons collided with the phosphor coating, they would create dots on the screen. These dots would represent computer bits. Now, later on we had semiconductors. If your semiconductor had electrons in it, then that was a 1. If your transistor at that time, the semiconductor transistor, if it had no electrons in it, it was a 0. Okay? That's how all modern computers work. You know, all your modern computers today work like this. Okay? In June 1948, Mr. Williams and Mr. Kilburn built a computer which they called Baby. They incorporated the Williams-Kilburn tube technology into their new computer. Then they tested their computer with a mathematical problem. The computer was incredibly slow and somewhat clunky, but it did manage to find the answer to the math problem that it was presented. Okay? Now, at that time, punch cards were still used to input data into the new computer, but the output could be printed on the Williams-Kilburn tube. But this tube was very inefficient. Only 1 bit of information was shown on the Williams-Kilburn tube at any one time. And this information quickly faded unless someone or something bombarded the phosphor coating with electrons over and over again. At this point, you may think to yourself that you know everything you need to know about random access memory. That would be a huge mistake. There's another story I must tell you, and it involves an invention that was created just before World War II actually began. Okay? So let's erase all these names here. Alright. The next name I'm going to introduce you to is a guy by the name of Gusta. And oh wow, let's do this again. Gusta Tauschek. If I mispronounce that name, I'm sorry in advance. Alright. Now, this guy invented something called the drum memory. This drum memory looked a lot like a large hard disk. It was huge. And if you look it up, you'll find out. It was coated with a material that was ferromagnetic. Now, the word ferro itself, the etymology of that word is it comes from the word Latin word ferrum, which means iron. And in many ways, this drum functioned like a hard disk drive. Although both systems worked for storing data, they were very inefficient. Oh boy, were they inefficient. So, what happened next? Well, now we have to introduce you to yet another name. And this man's name is J. Wright Forester. There we go, J. Wright Forester. Now he studied electrical engineering at the University of Nebraska. By 1939, he was a graduate student and was working with the staff at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and you know them today as MIT. Now, Mr. Forrester's parents were both teachers, and he learned to ride horses at a very early age. He learned about the components of batteries and burglar alarms from books that were donated to a one-room schoolhouse he attended as a youth. These books were donated by the government of the state of Nebraska at the time. Mr. Forrester's first accomplishment was the construction of a wind-driven electrical generator. This provided some power to his parents' home. And this would be like the wind turbines you have today, only not so sophisticated. Okay. During World War II, Mr. Forester developed controls for radar-based anti-aircraft defense systems. During the war, he tried to fix the anti-aircraft defense systems on a United States aircraft carrier. At that moment, the aircraft carrier was deployed into battle, and suddenly he found himself in the middle of a firefight. Thankfully, he survived the ordeal. After the war, Mr. Forester was asked by the United States government to develop an airplane flight simulator. He consulted with an acquaintance named Perry Crawford. I guess I'm going to write his name down, too. There's Perry Crawford's name. Okay, this motivated Mr. Forester to build a computer called the Whirlwind. But this computer had a problem. It used vacuum tubes to process information, and as I stated earlier in this video, this was an inefficient way of storing and retrieving data. One day, Mr. Forester saw an ad for some type of magnetic material. He decided right then and there that utilizing magnetic fields would be the perfect way to store and retrieve data. The United States initially funded the development of the computer called the Whirlwind, but their funds after World War II quickly dried up. After all, peace broke out and they didn't need the funds anymore. So, Mr. Forester was very worried that he would never finish the development of the Whirlwind computer. But then one fateful morning, he received a phone call from the United States Air Force. The Soviet Union had officially joined the nuclear arms race, and they offered Mr. Forester the money he needed to finish the development of the Whirlwind computer. Although Mr. Forester designed the new flight simulators and the Whirlwind computer, he signed a contract with the International Business Machine Corporation, which you would now know as IBM, to construct the devices. IBM engineers finally connected a device that looked like a chain link fence to a new Whirlwind computer. This chain link fence was comprised of objects that looked like donuts. Now, exactly how this looked, I can't tell you. I'm not an expert in this, but I'll tell you what I can, and if I get something wrong, you're more than welcome to leave me comments in the comments section to correct anything I might have made wrong. These donuts were comprised of magnetic material and were strung on wires in an array pattern. Each donut represented a computer bit. If the donut was magnetized in one direction, it represented the number 1. If it was magnetized in the other direction, it represented the number 0. And this has been common through computers ever since. Not necessarily the wires, but the concept of 1 and 0. If you have electrons, it's a 1. If you don't have electrons, it's a 0. The donut wires could direct and change magnetic direction. But was this the end of the story? Oh no. The next step in the creation of random access memory came in the form of metal oxide semiconductors. Ever heard of a MOSFET before? Oh yeah. I bet that sounds familiar. If you have been watching my transistor YouTube videos, you will recognize this term, and in future videos I will try my best to explain in depth the inner workings of a metal oxide semiconductor. Shortly after the metal oxide semiconductor was developed, a man by the name of Robert H. Horman developed the very first static random access memory. Okay. There's Robert H. Horman for you. Okay? As you probably know from my unipolar transistor video, the American Telephone and Telegraph Company, otherwise known to you as AT&T, which was formerly Bell Labs, developed the transistor that we know and love today. This led to the development of the static random access memory. What is static random access memory? Well, I'm going to get into that, not so much in this video, but in a future video. Static RAM contains flip-flop circuits. These circuits are comprised of at least 4 and possibly even 6 transistors. These transistors store electrons until they are told to release the electrons. Now, I'll grant you I'm not an electrical engineer and I don't have the expertise to explain this flip-flop technology in greater detail. You want to go for it, make a video, send it to me, and I'll link this video up to yours. However, I will tell you that there is something called dynamic random access memory. In future videos, I may take the time to explain dynamic RAM in greater detail. If you're interested in such a discussion, feel free to let me know. I want to thank you so much for watching this particular presentation.